Imagine this. Your thoughts, your beliefs, your feelings. This is your house. But is it your home? Hi, I'm Nelson DeMello, and join me as we try to find our home beyond our borders.
I don't know. I think that's fine.
Yeah, that's a good take.
So what happened in that sense? So let's skip over to 19. Well, I would say, okay, before then, how did I? Because I do still have an addictive personality. I deal with video games. I mean, social media. At the time. Okay, so I wasn't with pornography, but I was definitely like wasting all of my time talking to girls, texting them, trying to match, and which I think every teenager kind of does, but they don't see it that way of like, oh, this is an addiction, or oh man, I spend way too much time here. I gotta go whatever. And it's because like I got everything done, and that's what I did with all of my free time. And that, I don't know, maybe that's not addiction. Maybe that's just like a very passionate hobby or something. I don't know. But it was soccer, video games, girls. Yeah, that's all I can really think of for that. But for like TV, video games, whatever, I would, and this is an ADHD thing where like, if I started, I wouldn't stop, and even as a kid, oh man, yeah, now I'm remembering, I would, be playing on the original PlayStation, okay, original PS1, all right, and I'd be playing as a kid. I remember I would only pause the game when I was literally like about to, like, my bladder was about to explode, or I would eat, like I wouldn't eat if I was playing. Like my parents would have to force me, and sometimes I'd be crying as a kid. Like, I don't want to eat. I want to play, like I want dopamine so bad. And yeah, that was it, I think the challenge there, if there's any parents listening, knowing your kids' motivations and kind of trying to interplay that with their responsibility, I think is the most important. Like the best way to get them to understand the value of what they're doing. So like, if it's chores and they're like success minded, right? Success oriented, then, give them that to-do list and say, and give them a prize at the end, right? So they feel like a winner, like, oh, I did this thing, I won, if it's, somebody who like needs to control their surroundings, whatever the case is, it's like, teaching them that, a man or a woman that can control their room, their environment, can control their mind, can control whatever. And like discipline works for some people. Like, and that's why like you can't say, dude, you can't say, when I have kids, I'm going to like raise them this way. You don't know your kid, they might be like me, where I'm like looking at butterflies on the soccer field, like, wow, this is a beautiful thing. And like wanting to make like beautiful art on the field, right? So dribbling, passing, one touches, like moving around, doing this thing, scoring the beautiful goal. And even if I lose, I'm like, dude, we played our best game ever. High five everyone. That was so fun. Oh my gosh, like in that way I'm competitive. And this is where like my dad was like insane still to this day. He's like, I don't understand. Like only a loser would be okay with losing. Duh. And I'm like, no, I'm okay with losing if I did beautiful, and that's just my personality. Like I'm an artist. I'm I care for beauty. I care for creativity. I care for, these things. I don't care for results, honestly, too much, which, yeah, my goodness, dude, I'm cooking. Let's see where this goes. And so, and that's my point is kids are their own people that are going to grow up to be humans. And we can't just determine how they're going to be raised. You have to understand who the kid is, right? Like there are parameters of in which all kids need to be nurtured and, taken care of and all these things. But in terms of like how they get there and all these things, it's totally personality based. It's totally based on who the kid is. And hopefully that resonates with a lot of people. I know I don't have kids. I'm a young guy. What am I talking about? But like, again, I'm thinking through my life so critically and clinically that, and I have a mind to expand this to apply to all. I mean, you're going to respect it or not, or you're going to see it or not. Like this is like the story of my life where I give advice. I give this wisdom. You don't listen. Depending on what the wisdom is, in a month, in a year, in a decade, you're going to come back and say, this guy was right. You know? So, I mean, you could either listen and try, you know, and I know that's arrogant, but it's just, you spend so much time alone in a room trying to think about things and, you know, you get the results, and I wasn't scared of the dark, you know, essentially. And so I went through all of it, and that's why I'm just speaking out here. Dude, I don't like that I'm just repeating that. Like, oh, I'm here spilling my guts. Do you see it? Even that was self-critical. You see how I'm doing that? I'm thinking about myself and what I'm saying and all these things. Whatever. That's all I wanted, dude. Oh my gosh. And just still that attention-seeking. Just kidding. Dog. All right. I just had this feeling of like, who actually cares, you know, like, and it's not that, I mean, all of these things bubbling back up, but I'm not doing it for anyone to care. I'm just trying to help people, I think, to be honest. But it's like, if a wood falls in the middle of a forest, no one's there to hear it. Did it fall, you know, kind of deal. And yeah. So it's just this, like, I think acknowledgement and all these things are necessary for me to achieve my goal. And that's kind of why I care about it, I think. And my goal is to like help people. Yeah. Okay. Dog. I'm talking about. So, mind of an addict. Okay. I got a habit. I got to go at it. What just happened? Wait, hold up. If at any point in this you said, dang, I never thought about it like that, please subscribe. What are you doing, man? I'm trying to pay my bills. Okay, anyways, let's get back to the serious stuff. All right, see it. Christian hedonism, man. Christian hedonism. I tried changing. This was something that clicked for me. It was really two things. It was one, I think it's Jeffrey Bethke or Jeremy Bethke. I apologize. I don't remember. I think it's Jeremy Bethke. I always get his name. I don't know why. I get him confused so much. There isn't a second person. It's just his name like escapes me. I just know his last name is Bethke. He does this thing. He was super famous, spoken word about why I hate religion and love Jesus. I listened to this. I'm like, wow, this really, really resonates. I then start getting into Christian hedonism. I start reading the Bible for myself. But in this, so this is crazy. I was reading the Bible so much that it was like giving me headaches of like, you know, of like the tension or what would I say? Like there's just like information overload. And that stress honestly caused me to not even relapse. Like it wasn't relapse. I was still like going through it. So it was like I was fighting both forces intensely, like extremely ambivalent. And you know what's interesting? I thought ambivalence, whatever. I thought this meant like you don't care, you know, like yeah, whatever. But it's really you feel both sides intensely. Like you feel like, do you want Burger King or McDonald's? Being ambivalent means you want both so much that you can't decide. It's not that you don't care, and it's not that you know. Like you don't care to decide. It means that you care too much to decide. And that's a lot of, I would say a lot of this arc, there's that theme of ambivalence. I remember writing an English paper and talking about this, that I saw my dad as this like great evil and my mom is this great good, and there's this ambivalence in my life. And then just going through life, I saw the ambivalence in my life, and just all of it. So in this sense, I was pursuing God with this newfound passion, but I was also pursuing fleshly desires, is how a Christian would put it. And so there's just this huge thing. And I didn't, one thing I came across, I don't know if I read this anywhere or anything, but it becomes like one of my teaching mantras, I guess. Like one of these things that I like, a phrase that you just ingrain in your head, which is you can't, like, you can try all your life to run away from the darkness, but the most efficient way, the best way to run away from the darkness is to run towards the light. And it comes, for me, it comes from the passage where Jesus says you can't serve both masters. You'll either hate one or despise the other. And so my thing was, well, I don't want the bad. So if I pursue the good enough, I will learn to despise the bad. And in that was a messy ride, right? So from, Wolf of Wall Street, a level of thing. Well, I guess that never really, I had phases with that, but I think that was phases with my addiction. But I strongly pursued, and I was honest about it. I think that's the difference. Like when you fight something by yourself, there's shame, guilt, and all of that attached to it. As soon as you open that up and expose that darkness to light, it has no power over you anymore. I think that's super important. Confession is super important. So again, I talked about how with Pastor Alberto, I would spill my guts, dude. Everything and anything I was feeling, I was not ashamed to talk to him because he was open ears, man. He was not only open ears, but he was such a wise man. He was so Yoda. You know what I mean? He's great guy. Even to this day, dude. Love him to death. I was actually thinking about this. You know how like some rappers, they'll give their top 5, and one of their top 5 is like a local guy, like their local, they'll say some random dude and you're like, I've never heard of this guy in my life. How can he be so good? I was thinking of like, oh, who are like my top 5 like theologians or something. Alberto's up there, man. He's like 2 or 3, to be honest. And oh my goodness. Dude, my brain, bro. I need therapy, bro. I'm already in therapy, but what am I trying to say is that being open about your struggles, bro, is the most freeing thing. And I know it's scary, and this is what I'm talking about. It's scary. We avoid it, but it's ultimately so good for you, especially if you find people that like don't judge, don't care, like when I say don't care, I mean it doesn't change their definition of you in their minds. That have this maturity to understand like all humans are broken. Some people are just better at hiding it, kind of deal. And so when when you're dealing with this ambivalence, when you're dealing with this dichotomy, just be honest. That's easier said than done. Well, for me, it was easy because I don't have to explain that one, right? I just don't. Even then, well, and I think what happened, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, there's this, like, I fell into this hyper grace, which I think by the grace of God, it was a healing, like it was a healing thing for me to believe this. Hyper grace is where sin abounds, grace abounds the more, is like the catchphrase, which basically means like, it doesn't matter what I do because I'm saved and grace covers all of my sins. So I can sin as much as I want because grace is even more powerful. That gave me the freedom to be open with my life because I thought, this is testimony. Like God's going to figure this out one day, not today. And so I'm just going to live my life. It's totally fine. And if you're single, that might work for you, not going to lie. No, not really. That's actually really bad advice. It's unwise. Let me back up. I'm sorry. Well, it's because there's consequences to everything. Like, yeah. And that's what I've learned. Like, there might not be spiritual consequences, right? Like, you won't lose your salvation. You won't distance yourself from God. The idea of distancing yourself from God it's one-sided. It's you not coming close to God, you being ashamed, you putting on the clothes, right? I'm referring to Adam and Eve. This is what happens. But God is always there. God is present. And so ultimately there's no spiritual consequences, but there's physical consequences, right? You sleep around whatever you want, the headaches. I've already talked about that, right? But with anything, being a jerk, being whatever the case is, there's physical consequences, and you're responsible for them, you know? I don't remember what I was talking about. I might need medicine for real to do this. Being unashamed, bro. I was so unashamed. So I would tell them like, hey, yo, I'm watching this much porn. I was talking to these girls. I'm mad at my dad. I'm angry. I feel bitter. I feel envious of, this person in the church. Every single thing I was feeling and I did would be exposed to somebody. I would tell. If it wasn't Alberto, it was my group of guy friends in at Springs, and I was totally just open and vulnerable and allowing for anything to happen. And while I was going to church, I was reading my Bible, I was doing all this because I made a promise that I was not going to be inauthentic. I was not going to live Christianity with this hole in my heart of I would rather be doing something else. I think that because I was so adamant about that, so intense about that, I get it from my dad. It clicked for me faster than anyone else. I think most people who come to Jesus start playing the game quick of, now I got to get my act together because I go to church. That delays your process by so much. I'm talking 20 years into church and you still haven't figured it out. When this is like a first year, like idealistically, this is first year problems. This is second year problems. But people think, oh, now that I'm a Christian, I have to get my act together. Dude, allow the love of God to fill the holes. And this is what I finally want to get to, is my journey with my addiction to pornography was hard fought. And I don't mean in the sense that like I would white knuckle it, and white knuckling is that right there. Well, maybe I'm not strong enough to white knuckle, but it's essentially like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. Because I'm not capable of white knuckling. There's no bone, no nerve, no muscle in my body that can white knuckle anything. I live completely by desire, and that it can be a downfall. But by the grace of God, I've been aligned and balanced well enough that I can be a decent human being. Okay, anyways, so I'm here. And I can't white knuckle anything. So again, trying to make the connection of my greatest passion, my greatest desire is to be in the presence of God. It's a real King David kind of deal. He murdered, raped, he did all of it. But he was like intense about being in the presence of God. He did things out of, lust, excitement, whatever. Like, he did a lot for a lot of reasons, and it was slippery slopes was his downfall for pretty much everything. But he just loved the presence of God so much that it wasn't white knuckling, it wasn't effort, it wasn't anything to let go of these things, and I think that's what ends up being the issue, is that it's our desires. We're double-minded. Our desires are fighting against each other for what we really want. We want a good marriage, but we also want autonomy. We want a good marriage, but we also want these things. We try to pretend like the second thing that we want isn't real. And so it's like, no, but I want this thing. I just can't get it. It's like, maybe there's a second thing that you want that ain't mixing well. And you got to deal with that. Hey guys, thank you so much for going on this journey with me. If you like the content, please like, subscribe, follow, and remember, there is more to life, and that is good news. Thank you guys so much. Have a great day.